Don't do it. Don't do it.
It's too late. It's already done.
No.
You're listening to episode 207 of PHP Ugly, your weekly dose of 3 disgruntled employees, which is kind of a shame because 2 of the employees actually own the company. So, yeah, that's weird. Hold on, I got music coming back. Let's mute that. If you listen to the audio podcasts, you can join us pretty much every Thursday, 9 p.m.-ish Pacific Coast time. We record live. You get to see some of our ramblings before and after and all the stuff that gets cut out of the audio podcast, which, could be beneficial. I don't know. It's up to you. Anyways, for episode 206, I'm your host, Eric.
Seven.
For episode 207, I'm your host, Eric. And with me, as always, is John Congdon.
Technically, you were the host of 206 too, so it's okay. You didn't lie.
That's true. And Thomas Rideout.
Hello. I'm also the video manipulator guy, and
That's what I was trying to think of. Like, what is your role now? Like, you're like the video producer, or what is it? I don't know what you call that.
I don't even know.
I think technically it's producer.
Yeah.
He's gonna give himself that title. It's gonna be on the card next week.
You know me. I would give myself the title of associate producer.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say sociopath.
So,
No, that's Eric's title.
I can support that.
Oh
Hey, the charges never stuck. You can't prove anything. How was everybody's week?
I'm back at work.
Well, how's that going for you, Thomas?
I tell you what, Monday was interesting. I had to ramp back up, and it essentially took me the day to get my feet back in the water and remember my commands and all that stuff. Get everything, because I had shut everything down, all my VMs and coding stuff and Slack, and so I was offline. And getting back up online took me a good chunk of the first day.
I hate to say this to you guys, but I forgot to check my mic source on Zencaster. Let me see if I'm seeing anything. I look like I'm getting something. I may be getting something. I don't know. Do you want to? We'll just wing this.
If not, we got our local recordings. We're good.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Sure. Yeah. Or we got YouTube as well. Yeah. So for the people who care, I am in my second full week of. Well, no, probably my first full week, but about a week and a half of using my new Pop! OS System 76 Linux machine. They are not a sponsor, by the way. But and of course, last week I podcasted from the machine after only having it for about a day and a half, and there were a couple issues, but we got it going. And today I went to dial into Skype, and apparently there was no audio, so I had to frantically move everything over back to my Mac so that we can get the stream going. So things might be interesting for editing this week. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, you were asking about our weeks. How was your week, Eric? With being on the new system.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, it comes installed, right?
It has its pluses and minuses. I'm definitely getting more comfortable with it. I'm starting to see where the shortcomings are going to be for me as far as my tool chain goes, and there hasn't been anything I haven't been able to really switch out. The big one that I had to come to the realization that I won't be able to use was Table Plus. So Table Plus had really been my go-to database client on the Mac. I liked it because it had drivers for a lot of databases, even though 99.5% of my databases were MySQL. It has some really nice filtering options in there. If you use SQL Pro, it's kind of like SQL Pro, but kind of a step up, like a little bit extra oomph on it. Um, I Table Plus does have a Linux version, but it's way scaled back. I mean, I think I even tried to. First thing, it only works with MySQL. I tried to do, I think, an export, and it doesn't even support exports right now. The interface, the UI is very clunky. So I had to go find myself another database client, and so I'm kind of
He's
playing
using
with that.
MySQL admin now. What?
Yeah, I thought about that after the conversation we had with Dave
No.
Stokes. Um, oh, you're talking about PHP admin.
No.
Oh yeah,
Is it PHP
MyAdmin?
MyAdmin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
PHP MyAdmin. Yeah, I think that's what you're talking
The
about.
poison
Yeah.
pill.
Oh, yeah.
No, I did almost think about. Well, I was actually going to go the route of the MySQL client because Dave Stokes, mentioned it, and when I went to install it, Pop! OS has a little app store. It's actually very nice for Linux. I remember Ubuntu had an app store and it was awful. The
Yeah.
Pop! OS app store is very smooth, very clean. So I typed it in there, and it wasn't in their app store. But I did notice another name that I thought I remembered Dave Stokes mentioning, and so that's the one I'm giving a try right now. It's called
Workbench?
huh?
Is it Workbench?
No,
MySQL Workbench?
that's the MySQL one. This
Right.
one was DBeaver, so it's DBeaver. And I thought I remembered Dave talking about that one, so I went ahead and gave that one a try, and it's pretty full-fledged. What you call it? JetBrains also has Data Grip,
Which I've
which
used.
I haven't. You have used it?
Yeah.
How do you like it?
I mean, it's a database.
It is what it is. I don't
It's-
understand the difference between Data Grip and the database tools that are in like PHP Storm. They seem like they're the same to me.
DataGrip has a whole like schema mapping and database administrator functionality.
Ah, okay, that would be the difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can really dig into your database schemas and manage them and manage your keys and indexes and
Just I assume you can manage like users as well, user access.
I'm sure you can. I haven't.
That's the
messed with
big
it,
thing
but-
for me is I can do the basic selects and things like that, but
Yeah, I can add a new user here through the GUI.
You can. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I know there are command lines for it, but I don't know them off the top of my head. And I have users for each application we have, and each environment has its own unique user and its own unique password. So I'm kind of a stickler about that. And if I had to look up all those commands every time even if I needed to change a password, it would drive me crazy. So that's one of the big things I like the GUIs for. I have to, I might have to take another look at DB. I'm not sure if I might have to take a look at Data Grip. I'm not sure if the DBeaver does it or not. I haven't looked at it.
I know a couple people that use Data Grip and they like it.
Yeah.
Even though I think they're on Mac, and I've tried showing them SQL Pro or SQL Ace is what it's called now. That would be one tool I would miss if I made the switch. Although you're talking about the Docker performance improvement, that is one thing that might drive me over to a Linux machine. Purely for that.
Be fair, well, let me talk about the Docker thing before I get into that. Yeah. So John and I were talking on the PHP podcast this week with Oscar as we're recording, and I was sharing with John, Tom. I don't know if you have any insight on this, but the Docker performance on Linux is just butter smooth.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it is so fast.
That's because it
There's
has direct kernel access. it overwrites the kernel. So it's very similar to how DirectX works on Windows with graphics card interactions, where the graphics card can write to the CPU and back and forth. It doesn't have to go through the OS. Docker is native to Linux, so it can request from the kernel a pipe to the CPU, and that pipe is permanently circumventing the Linux kernel. So system functionality is not tied to the Linux kernel at all. It's tied to the CPU. So I've actually had Docker boxes continue running when my desktop crashed because it's still accessing the CPU the way it wants to.
Oh, interesting.
So
yeah.
And Windows is supposed to get that. That's part of the feature set that Windows is pushing with Docker for Windows, is that it's going to have that same functionality. But BSD, I don't believe, has that integration level with the kernel. Being OS X.
Yeah, you have to run another application to even run Docker.
Yeah.
So, is that part of the WSDL thing with Windows, or you said it was part of the Windows Docker piece, but is that part of the whole Linux subsystem on Windows as well, or?
I'm not sure how related they are, but I believe they get updated at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I think about it, yeah, Docker is running through WSL, so they're tied in some way.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if it's just a project relationship issue or if it's actually the software is the same.
Yeah. So the Docker experience, John, I just can't rave about it enough. It's just flawless. It's so fast. Now, I will say, before I start to grate too much about the issues I'm coming up against with the desktop, I want to be clear. Still, to this date, one of my most hated desktops was the Trash Can Mac, which we did not skimp on what we put in that Mac. That was like a high-end Mac when we got it, and it was hands down one of my worst desktops I've ever had.
Wasn't that OS 9?
It was always
No, it was OS X.
Yeah, it was OS X.
It was only like 2015 or 16 that we got that.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that old.
That's right.
And it had been out a long time before that. It's not even like it was. I mean, it was the desktop that they had, but it wasn't bleeding edge. You didn't just come out with it. I know. I mean, John, I think you kind of feel the same way. You didn't care for it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, apps were always crashing. It was slow. It was clunky. So I've never really been a fan of desktops, and for a while I said I wasn't going to do a desktop again, and then Thomas, you kind of convinced me otherwise. But with that said, with the System 76 machine, there are things that are irritating me. The biggest thing that irritates me right now is when I enabled encryption on my disk because that's what I do. I do it on all my Macs. It was an option for the System 76 machine. I did it on my System 76 machine. Every time I reboot, before I even get to the UI, it's still in this little bio state. Well, first off, the reboot itself is very slow compared to a Mac laptop. The Trash Can was kind of a slow reboot as well. The Mac laptops, the reboots are incredible. I mean, they're so fast. I haven't seen anything that can compare to it. So desktops, understand, are slow in general. But before I even get to the UI, and I'm still in like this BIOS screen phase, I have to input my password to decrypt the disk.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's that whole security convenience thing, but it's like, I really want my desktop up. Can you just get my desktop up, please? Because I don't have to do that on my Mac. I don't have to put in my password to decrypt my disk on my Mac. So that's kind of annoying. Yeah, and just there's the little things.
Is it an SSD system?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It sounds like you just need to enable quick rebooting.
Oh, is that a thing?
Yeah.
Maybe I do. I don't know. And these are the things I'm learning. Like I'm kind of going through and making these little tweaks here and there, making it more fit my needs. I got my Vim dialed in. Oh my God. I got my Command and Conquer working, and that gives it the whole IntelliSense in Vim. And holy smokes, am I happy. I'm not using it full time yet, but I'm very close to it. I'm using it for other things. It is still, I haven't tested it yet, but I don't I, I don't think it still does that. Oh, hey, you use this old syntax. Here's the new syntax sort of thing that PHP Storm does. And that's one of the things I lean on heavy for PHP. Well, all the JetBrains stuff. I'll get to that in a second. But I'm getting to the point with PHP where I'm like, I shouldn't need that so much anymore. I should be getting better at it. So, yeah, feel
Nah,
good.
that's a load of crock there.
Okay.
That's to me. That's all about uh, like being able to do research. You don't memorize things. You're able to research them. The fact
That's
that
fair.
the fact that you have that tool set available to you, you've been coding for a long time. Things change. So the fact that your toolkit is able to tell you, hey, did you know this is deprecated? Or hey, did you know there's a better way to possibly do this? You know,
Mhm.
you're you're able to learn from other people that, you know, put those kind of new best practices out there via something like PHP Storm, where
And
you
not
may
to
not have.
sound too corny about it, but it is almost like you're pair programming with your IDE, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But I've learned quite a bit of things, especially when it comes to JSON encode and decode. I always lean on the IDE to fill in the other parameters that I never think about, such as the depth to go on, I think, decoding, telling it to throw errors instead of just returning you an empty string. Where if I
Hmm.
was doing it by hand via Vim, I'm going to miss those things. So I love when my IDE shows me the squiggly line for the most part. There's a ton of times where it doesn't. It's like, just stop. That's not something I want you to warn me about.
Well, but
So with
you can turn off that level of warning. I've
No, but I don't want to. Where it does it when I don't want it is in PHP unit with mocks, and I use mocks a ton. And unfortunately, the IDE isn't smart enough to know that this. It kind of knows that this is both a object of mine and it's a prophecy object, but it's still, once you get past you set up a mock to a method. Once you get past that, it doesn't know that it's a mock method, so everything after that is a squiggly line.
Interesting.
I feel like there's
So
supposed to
with
be a
the
plugin for that or something that PHP
It's
Storm could catch.
for the most part it is pretty good and does a lot of good with PHP unit, but that's one thing that's been bugging me, because over the past week I've been doing a crap ton of unit testing.
Well, I'm
That's the thing that jumps out.
I'm extraordinarily thankful for my IDE because my task yesterday was to upgrade our system to Laravel 8. And
you mean Laravel 8.6 now, right? Aren't we already up to
you
8.6?
wish that was this morning.
Are we up again? Have we bumped one more time?
Oh boy, let me look. We are now at 8. Oh, we are at 8.6.0. That's nice.
There
A
you
full
go.
day of
It's
stability.
been out. It's been out for what, a week and a half, 2 weeks maybe.
Yeah.
It's been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was quick. That was a quick .6 release.
Yeah, it's
Um,
been a rough upgrade. Real rough.
from where are you upgrading from?
7, latest.
7 what?
Whatever the latest of 7 was is like 724 or something.
Really? So, oh, this is surprising to hear. It's been a rough upgrade from that.
So the way we had our factories defined,
Well, factories is a big change. That's the one big change, right?
no, it's this is not the fault of Laravel, but the factories issue. Uh, the what's the code updater thing?
Code updaters.
Shift.
Shift.
Yeah.
Oh.
Laravel Shift just mangled our factory file because we only had one file and we had a definition, 100 definitions in it, and it tried to make one object out of that one file, and it failed miserably,
Did it go well?
extraordinarily poorly. And even though it failed, it still updated all the usages of factory to the new style. So I had to spend, I think, 3 hours undoing those changes and then installing the legacy factory support and just saying, I'm going to deal with this another day because it's too different for us to deal with right now. But then on top of that, we use Spatty's media library plugin, and that had a major revision change as well to support 8, and the entire syntax and most of the namespacing changed. So everywhere that we were using that, I had to fix, and it was a giant
That's
mess.
off. That's off. Okay, the media. I guess the media would be a big one for you.
And then I would say
okay.
5 or 6 projects that hadn't upgraded to 8 after the week, so they didn't support it. I went in and cloned those and just said, you now support 8, 9, 10, and 11. So I'm not going to have to worry about that next version.
I'm not sure that's how that works. You might have to worry about it if something you depend on actually changes. But
so got 2 days into it, got seeding working, thought everything was fine, opened up the page, and it said Elixir is not defined. Laravel Elixir support has been completely removed after its deprecation in 7.
What is Elixir?
Elixir is the Laravel
Older
5 version of CSS handling.
Well, not the builder, right? The asset builder, JavaScript builder, all that.
Yes,
and it was
they were using Gulp.
It was deprecated, so you knew.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Well, I have a ticket that converted everything into Webpack, and it's just sitting and waiting for approval. So now that ticket has to get approved before I can move on to Laravel 8. So I've got a ticket blocked by a pending ticket, and it's been progress. It's been slow progress. It's one of those things where it's like banging your head against a wall because there's just so many errors.
It's also the first project you migrated. I think this is always the case with migrations, right? You migrations, new desktops. You find the little caveats, and then once you get them ironed out, you look back. It's like, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah,
I just needed to figure out what was wrong.
You guys use Mix, right? Because you do npm run dev.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had just incredible headache problems from that?
Oh yeah. Less now with Mix than we were with Gulp. Gulp. I was always running into issues. But Mix, I run into issues. Now I'm not a JavaScript person, so I don't. I'm very limited into what I can fix and what I can't fix. A lot of times my fix is blowing away the node modules, doing a new npm install, and see if everything works after that.
Yep.
But
that's typical.
Yeah, but as far as I don't have a lot of problems with it, to be honest with you. It's gotten way better, way better for me.
Well, I can tell you on my system, the default package.json that ships with the framework just does not run.
Oh, there's something clearly wrong there. Yeah.
It throws a ton of errors.
Are you on the wrong version of npm? Are you
Nope.
using an old version?
Nope. There's a bunch of dependencies that I have to include that I don't know why I have to include them or why they're not in the default, but it will throw, just a billion different kinds of errors. I mean, I spent hours on that as well, trying to get that working again.
that's something that if you ping me on, I'll jump on with you and look at it. It really sounds like a configuration issue there or something. If it's that basic,
I cannot read property options of undefined. That's one of my errors.
That's on the base package that JSON, or after your modifications, or for your specific application.
That's for my application, so that's what I think.
Oh, okay.
Chunk sort modules is not a function. It's just a massive headache, and it's not like my website.
You've tried blowing away node modules and doing a fresh npm install?
Oh, I probably did that 100 times today.
Well, try one more.
101 usually rounds it out nicely.
Yeah.
I'll jump on the call with you tomorrow, Thomas, on it, and if you want.
I believe I've got it working now.
But you don't know why?
Correct.
I hate when that happens. It works, I just don't know why it works.
Yeah.
So, yeah, big thumbs up for Laravel 8. Don't know why changing everything was necessary.
I don't think they changed everything. I think they changed very well. First thing, the mix thing has been there for years now.
Yeah, I don't know. That's I know.
The only thing they changed was factories. Everybody's excited about the new factories. There is a legacy package in there, which I was going to ask. Did you try pulling in the legacy package to see if that took care of your factory issue?
That's what I'm running now. My issue was twofold. Was that Shift had misinterpreted my factories as they were, so I had to go into the commit log and revert that. And then another weird issue, I don't know if this is a thing that I just never heard of before, but leading slashes on namespaces. I found a bunch of code that was referencing my app models directory that didn't have a leading slash on the namespace. And because I had to upgrade to 7.4 with this upgrade, for some reason it just didn't want to read that anymore. It had to have the leading slash.
I have that issue. I've run into that issue. Not so much when, and I can't explain to you why, but not so much when I have it as the use statement at the top of the file. But like if I'm doing up a model and I don't have the leading slash, that's where I run into it. And
well,
again,
you have to if you're in a namespace.
But from what I've read, you didn't have to, but it was wrong.
Oh, I didn't know there was that bug was out there. Yeah, if you're in a namespace, you have to have the
Someone in my company, I haven't tried to find out who yet, got in the habit of not having leading slashes, and the IDE didn't correct them.
Right.
So I have...
That's true, too. Yeah.
I have potentially thousands of references to models where it doesn't have a leading slash, and I have to find them all.
It corrects you now, by the way. Just FYI.
Yeah, well, this is all in my seeders, which is ancient data.
Yeah.
Stuff that hasn't been touched in 3 years except for by Shift. So.
Yeah, I can see why that can be. But again, it was one of those bad practices that somebody just fixed. And it's like, oh, hey, you broke my code. It's like, no, your code was always broken. We just fixed. We not showing you.
We fixed the bug.
we fixed the feature. It's not a bug, it's a feature.
Yeah. I think I have a good enough way of searching for instances of this in my code. So
I'm actually shocked that PHP didn't make that a deprecated issue first, where it would show up in your deprecation logs. Do you have deprecation logs
what's a deprecation log?
Where your deprecation, your error.
No, I don't.
Your error logging should be logging deprecations.
I don't think I am.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it might have been marked as a deprecation, but it just hit me in this one migration.
I mean, that's always a good practice when you're getting ready to do an upgrade, is to take a peek at your logs and see what's in there. screaming, "Hey, I'm about to be deprecated," so you know it's not going to work when you do the upgrade.
Well, but I'm so used
Yeah.
to Node saying everything is deprecated.
And that's true too,
That
I
right?
do.
that's a problem.
I'll do a Node install, and it says it says warning. This
Stop
will
using this package. It's
yeah
going away. It's like,
this
wait a
will
minute.
break in 14 plus.
Yeah.
This is deprecated. Replace it. Follow the guidelines here. This will break in 14 plus. Please see
Yeah.
deprecation guide. Deprecation guide.
I just that's yeah. I get it. I get that.
Skipping optional dependency. Unsupported platform.
That's Node. PHP, I believe, has been pretty good about deprecating things before they actually rip them out of the language.
Mhm.
Especially since going from 4 to 5, I think they made a huge effort at that point to have better logging.
So, so to circle back around on the Vim stuff, by the way, um, I mentioned that the Command and Conquer plugin leverages IntelliSense, and I might be wrong on this, but I think it's the exact same IntelliSense that Visual Studio Code is using, VS Code is using as well. And so you mentioned, John, you like the ID, like telling you what needs the additional parameters and stuff like on JSON decode. That
Mhm.
Vim does that now with this Command and Conquer plugin. You bring up something and it tells you, and it works on your code as well. Like if you format your code correctly with comments, it'll tell you all the parameters that you can pass to it, and then gives you the information about it underneath of it. It's pretty slick. I don't remember ever having that before. I'm like, whoa, what is all this information? And it's like, oh, that's pretty cool.
I remember when I was using Vim trying to get the autocomplete stuff to work. That was such a pain in the ass. You had to run
Totally.
something in a cron to build your
The
I forget what the
tags.
yeah, the C
Yeah.
tags.
So Command and Conquer takes care of all that for you.
Hmm.
It's pretty slick. And I know it runs on Vim and NeoVim. Now NeoVim has, I think, I don't know, I've lost track of what's what, but one can do synchronous communication, and I don't know if the other one does. NeoVim is the big one. Like it'll do synchronous communication and all this other fancy schmancy stuff. Uh, that's what I'm using now. I've moved on to that because there's a lot of plugin activity happening in that area because it's built. You can write plugins using Lua, and so it's becoming this big thing where people are porting their Vim plugins to Lua because it's faster. Like the syntax is very is much smoother. So yeah, that's kind of cool. But I did do something fun this week. I
What was
actually wrote a useful Python scripts. Actually wrote two useful Python scripts that even stores data. At first, I had it storing to a MySQL database, which I'm like, okay, this is cool. How do I get Python to talk to MySQL and vice versa? Then I realized, I don't really need it to store in the database. I actually want the data in the repo if I can do that. So I did SQLite, and I just refactored all the stuff today, and it still works. You'll appreciate this, Thomas and John. This will probably ring familiar to you, but it's for our Stand Up Alice in Slack. So
Oh
every week,
God.
every week I go through the Stand Up Alice responses and to get an understanding of what everybody's working on, what blockers people have, what their focus is, and what they've completed. And I take all that data and I put it in a file, and then we do our weekly stand-ups with the teams, and we'll just go through everything. Say, hey, I noticed you had this blocker marked. I saw you got this done. How did this go? Blah blah blah. And Stand Up Alice is very limited on how it presents its data. I've actually looked at replacing Stand Up Alice because of this, and I've looked at a lot of different automation flows. But You can export everything. There's no API access to it that I'm aware of. I looked, I haven't found any, because that would have been the way I would prefer to go. You can export the data to a CSV file, and it's kind of just clunky the way it's laid out. Like, I can't export. We have a different stand-up Alice on Mondays that just says, okay, what's your focus this week? Do you have any blockers?
Before you go too much further, for anyone listening, Stand Up Alice is a Slack plugin where everyone can, on a daily basis, can say, okay, I'm working on this today. We have it set up where on Mondays it says, what are you going to work on this coming week? And then every other day it's, what did you work on yesterday, basically, just to give us an idea of what people are currently in the middle of working on. It pings everybody in the morning saying, hey, it's time to submit your stand-up. This prevents us all from having to get on the phone and listen to what people are saying for 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So I've been downloading the CSVs, and I do copy and paste and all this other funkiness, and so I've been trying to automate that for a while, and I've been waiting to kind of brush up on my Python. I'm like, I bet you I can write a Python script that does this. And I did. I wrote it. It parses the CSV file, so I still have to download that. I'm gonna build on this, but it parses the CSV file and throws it in the SQLite database. Then I run a report against that SQLite database that grabs everybody, all the developers who submitted, and I can put in the date range. It grabs all the developers who submitted and all their responses to the questions. So, as John mentioned, the question, what did you work on yesterday, gets asked 4 times. And in the spreadsheet, each time it's asked, it's a new line in the spreadsheet. But of course, my code doesn't do that. It says, okay, for this question, here's how they responded. And it just throws it all out for me. And then I even stepped it up a notch, and I had it write it. I pulled in a package, a little pip package, then did an import for Markdown. So it runs everything in Markdown. The whole Python script is in a little Python VM. So even if you don't have the right version of Python, you can, if you pull in the repo, you source the repo, and you have the Python and all the packages right there in the little package. It's pretty slick.
So is this an open source project on Diego Labs?
No, it seemed pretty niche, right? Because it's
I know another company using Stand Up Alice.
Shut up.
Okay, I know two other companies using Stand Up Alice.
Maybe I can do that. That might be a good idea. So I'm very excited about next week using it for my meetings, because it takes me about a half hour, 45 minutes to put the report together and review it. Now it's going to take me like 15 seconds to put the report together, and I can and the data is going to be in a format where it's going to be very easy for me to review. So I'm excited. Python was fun again. It was fun to get back into Python. So that's where I was going to go with. I was actually very dependent on JetBrains PyCharm when I wrote that, because I'm like, I can just do all this in Vim. I wasn't going to do it in PHP Store. I'm like, I'll just do it in Vim. I'm like, oh, you know what? I should probably use PyCharm, because it's going to give me those hints. It's going to let me know where I'm screwing up. I'm sure I just hacked it together like something horrible, but it works. So I'm happy. It's fragile, but it works.
I know another project that we've done that does web scraping, so we can easily automate grabbing the CSV file if it's not already easy.
I'm a CSV file grabbing mofo, man. I can do that. I can parse it, put it all in Markdown. All right.
You want a fun non-tech story?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I got scammed.
No.
Did you really?
I got scammed. I did. Got scammed pretty hard.
Oh no.
It's not as bad as I'm making it sound, but that's one thing I've always been proud of myself on. You know, I understand scams. I don't really fall for them. So it's either I'm getting old and senile, too trusting. I don't know. But I see an ad on Facebook for a stand-up paddleboard. End
Oh,
of,
that's
and I'm like, wow, that's a great deal. I don't buy it right away. I move on. I'm doing my other things. I see an ad for a different site, a little more expensive, but not by much, but also has different packages. Like one had the oars, one didn't. So I'm like, maybe it's legit. Maybe they are. Maybe it isn't like end of season sale like they're saying. So I'm like, it's $70. What can it hurt? Let me try it. And I purchased it, and then I get the email. The charge is going to be from Acme Sugar or some weird name.
Mm-hmm.
I should find out what that was. I didn't think much about it at that moment in time. It seemed weird, but I was going out with the family or something. And I come back later. I'm like, something still doesn't seem right. Let me go to the manufacturer's website. And sure as shit, right on there, contact us. We've been receiving reports of people, you know, being scammed this way. I'm like, crap. Immediately
No.
called my credit card company, you know, reported it. And it was the same day. So they reversed the charge. No big deal. But
Was the charge still only $70, or did it?
yeah, it was still only $70, but
Oh, okay. All right.
it was the fact that I fell for it, that I took the fact that there were 3 or 4 different ads that I saw for different companies that
Mm-hmm.
made it more legitimate to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't research it past that at
So,
that moment
so,
in
so
time.
the whole crutch of the scam is you're just going to give them $70 and they're not going to send you anything. Is that it?
I don't know. I
Uh,
that's my assumption, because the email I got was, you know, please be patient type of email. Like, you're gonna get your stuff. It might take a little longer. You know,
it
Interesting.
sounds
we're
like
super busy.
it's not really a scam. It's a drop shipping site.
I don't know.
So do you know what drop shipping is?
Yeah, yeah, I've done it plenty in previous gigs.
Why don't you explain it to our listeners, though?
Um, basically, you order something off of an American-based website or trustworthy source, and all they do is go onto AliExpress and buy it for you and ship it to you from China.
Yeah.
So
Um,
you think I would have gotten it, but it would have been
it would have
just a
been a knockoff,
knockoff.
and it would have been like 2 or 3 months later, and you'd
Maybe I
have
should have let
no
it go.
and you have no way of opening a dispute. I have a trick for those things though. Those maybe not trustworthy sites.
Is that
Basically, if the site is not branded for the one thing that you're buying, then it's a scam.
no? It was all for it. They made the site specifically for these products.
So
It
did
looked
you
very.
did you click on all products, like view all products?
I don't remember if I did or not,
So a
to
lot
be
of these are
honest.
Shopify pumped out Shopify sites, and they'll have the page designed for the one product.
Hmm.
But if you look at the domain, it's just Hot Deals Express or
No,
whatever.
this was for the company. What I didn't pay attention to was it was .sale instead of .com.
Uh,
Uh,
well, because Shopify takes some work to configure properly, if you look for an all products button, they'll often send you to a generic page that lists all products in the database, and it'll just be random garbage.
Well, what what's even weirder is yesterday or the day before, I got a package addressed to me, had my phone number on the outside from China, and I opened it up and it was a pair of Ray-Bans.
what?
And I'm like, did they just send me a product to hope, or because I have no clue where these things came from. I didn't order any sunglasses. I actually thought when I opened it and I saw them, like, oh crap, did my wife buy me a birthday gift that I'm not supposed to know about? So I immediately closed it back up and I just put it in our mail slot.
Happy
And
early
then,
birthday, by the way.
thank you. And she was like, she opened them and just put them on the table outside my office. I'm like, did you buy some new sunglasses? She said, no, they were addressed to you. I'm like, I didn't buy them. Still no
You,
clue where they
you
came from.
you heard about the people getting random packages of seeds from China, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, but no,
Still
that's
no.
that's the first time I heard sunglasses. Was there invoice in there? Like,
No,
oh,
there
by
was
the way, you
nothing.
owe us $350.
I was looking all over it. Other than the fact that it had my name, address, and phone number, there was no other information. And Jackie, my wife, was, there's a phone number on the box. I'm like, I'm not calling China to find out why they sent me sunglasses.
I can give you what I've heard, which is that this is a review faking scam where they will they will have accounts buy random stuff and send it to random addresses and write a super positive review and then just send something they have in the shop to you.
So are they real? Are they real Ray-Bans though? You think?
I
No.
have no.
From China? No.
No. There's actually already a scratch in the like very corner of the lens. So,
Well, you know about receiving weird things in the mail. We've got people receiving weird things in the mail. We got our first tweet today that some of our swag made it to Canada.
nice.
Sherry Wheeler. Sherry Wheeler. I have the
Forgive them.
hardest. I am horrible with names. Uh, uh, they posted that they got their package. They were very happy with it. So, Buttery,
And
you
you
should
even
be on
put
this
a
way.
you even put a sticker on the envelopes. How nice.
I did. It was very nice. Now people have our address too because she posted our address. Now see, now the whole why do we need a PO box, Eric? That's so stupid. Not so stupid now, is it?
I never said it was stupid. I just said I'm not going to go to the post office to check it.
We literally have only gotten one thing of mail in there in the year and a half we've had that PO box. Matter of fact, if you want to do something cool for us, send us something to our PO box. Just send us like a postcard or something. It would be fun to actually have something to go pick up.
Yes, how could that go wrong?
Just don't put any white powder in there.
Send us your finest
Oh,
powders.
Don't. Why? See, this is what's going to have us get banned. Jeez.
No big deal.
Man.
We can be banned. I could use a night off every week.
You missed.
Just kidding.
Talking about
Yeah, we didn't get banned, we got reprieved.
our podcast recording with Oscar this week. We were talking about podcasting, and if you're listening to us, I will plead to you because I should have a tweet out before I actually publish this. Although I've been turning these publications around pretty quickly, so maybe not. But if you're in our Discord channel, you know that Oscar asked me for next month's community corner, not next month, but the following month, write up a article about the podcasts that are out there. PHP podcasts, developer sort of podcasts, things that people listen to. And I posted that in our Discord as well. So if you're look for that tweet and give us a reply, I will get that added to the article. I'm not going to put them all in there, but look for the popular ones and add those to the article as well. But where I was going with that is we were talking about the impact of podcasting and if it, we weren't getting real deep into it, but the point that I made at the time is, I guess this podcast, the PHP podcast that we're doing, is different than what we do with PHP Ugly because this has a marketing aspect of it. I mean, you're trying to get people interested in a product, and I mean, you're doing things kind of serving the community as well, but there's a thing about it. So I understand what Oscar was saying, that he wants to make sure people are liking the podcast, they're finding it beneficial, that he's getting good feedback about it, and I can appreciate that. Appreciate that. But I told him, I'm like, for PHP Ugly, I stopped caring a very long time ago. I'm like, it's just John, Tom, and I
It's
getting
not.
together talking now. I don't.
It's
I
not that
don't
we
know.
don't care. It's that we. I don't know how you put it. It's more for us at this point,
I'm
just
sorry.
to have
Have you
fun.
seen our new production values? Take a look at this transition to our beautiful Patreon page.
Lay it on them.
Look at
Oh,
that. That
so
was
pretty.
gorgeous.
That was so pretty. Hit him with a no transition, Tom.
Hit him with a new transition. Give him the stinger.
You got the stingers. I'll do this.
Oh. Oh.
That's good stuff. See, this is why you want to watch us record live. You audio guys, you're just missing out on all this. By the way,
engineering behind this is just spectacular.
We are on Amazon launched their podcasting section, and of course, I have to see if we're on there. And I'm like, hey, cool, we're on here. I don't know if it's something I did or
I loved your negative tweet of, hey, you've been ignoring us everywhere else. You can ignore us here now too.
As I said, I stopped caring.
we are very good at the self-deprecation, aren't we?
But it actually has a pretty cool looking page.
The Amazon podcasts.
Yeah, for PHP Ugly, it looked neat. I'm like, hey, I didn't do any of this. I don't know where they got this stuff from, but it's cool.
Well, thank you, Amazon.
I'm gonna have to look this up. Did including us drop their stock a whole bunch?
It's probably here. I'll throw the tweet in Trello for you. So let me find it real fast.
All right, while you're doing that, I was looking at Argus. For people that don't know, Argus.to, a service Eric and I are working on. It's more of something we needed for ourselves. We're opening it up to people that want to use it. It's really meant as a third-party way to monitor your cron jobs, making sure that tasks or scripts you want scheduled fire on time. You're not relying on your own systems. So it's basically we monitor it. We find out, you ping us when you're starting your script and things are good. If it doesn't fire within a certain amount of time, we'll let you know so you can react. So it's more of a way to get you to react to things that might be issues. Hopefully not, but anyway, it's a service we're working on. I was looking at that, and oh my god, the number of UUIDs that are in there were driving me crazy.
There's a lot of them.
There was one table in there I wanted to write to you about that. I'm like, why? Just why? Why? Anyway, so then I started to write to you, like, we really need to change all these varchar 32s or whatever they are.
Mm-hmm.
We have to stop doing that. It's horrible for performance. They need to be binary 16.
Yeah. You know, the issue... Good.
Before I started writing that to you, I'm like, let me go research that real quick. And the article I find about it, yeah, they're a little better for performance, but UIDs in general are notoriously bad.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit.
Sure.
So I think we can all agree that the expectation that UUIDs are not going to be as performance as a integer is a given. I don't think that's anybody's surprise. I'm interested in what you said though, as far as the varchar is in the binary isn't. Did you say it isn't that big of a difference?
It's not that big of a difference in the performance of your data.
That's very interesting. So as far as
varchar is just a longer allowable int.
No.
Varchar?
No.
Yeah, it's just everything breaks down to ints when you get into indexing.
It's more of the space that it takes. Yeah. So the fact that it's your primary key, and then for every secondary key you have on your table, you're duplicating that primary key. So your index could blow up very quickly depending on the indexes that you have.
Sure, like bigger, but not slower.
No, I
But
mean,
wouldn't it be slower by nature if they're bigger?
it's
No.
bigger. It's going to be slower based on your RAM. So if you have a crap ton of records, you can only store so much of that index in RAM before it has to access disk. Once it starts hitting the disk, it's going to slow down.
So that gets to the point. This is my justification for UUIDs. For as we all know, I'm a huge fan of UUIDs. I love them, and I have leveraged them many a times. I have moved things from a relational database to a document store, and everything has kept the same ID, and it's been a fantastic experience. For performance, my whole kind of justification for that is that performance is always getting better. Hardware is always getting better. The codes are always getting better. I'm not when my UUIDs become a performance impact to my application, I'm going to be in a position where that's going to be a good problem to have.
No, I do agree with that.
I'll be happy to address it when it happens. I just don't think. I think the benefits well outweigh the risk from my perspective.
For yes, I agree. My gripe was more about on an internal table. We have a types table where all the types have a UUID. Like
Yes, that would
external
be
resources, yes, you don't want auto incrementing, but for the type of hit we call it, I'm sitting there, I'm looking through this other table that's referencing the types, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I ended up writing a query to do the join so I knew what type it was.
I get you.
Versus if it was a 1, 2, or 3, I could have managed to figure it out. Preferably it would have been just an enum where I could read it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that sent me down this rabbit hole of looking into performance of UUIDs.
So
And
I'm happy.
I agree. If it was a performance issue, we would be in a good spot.
Yeah, I'm happy you did this research because that's something that's been bothering me for a very long time. Because when you run a migration in Laravel, if you want to use the built-in stuff and you say, okay, create this table, this column's a UUID, the varchar is what it does. And I'm like, oh shit. So now we gotta think about how we're going to do that. And this has been something that's been eating away in the back of my mind from that other project we worked on, the much bigger project that we worked on a while ago, and thinking about, okay, at some point I have to address this, and I just don't know how I'm going to address it. So maybe it's not something I need to worry about so much. I thought there would be a much bigger difference.
Yeah, you start looking at the some of the graphs. You can definitely see that the binary is more performant longer, but they all degrade pretty quickly.
Yeah.
With the binary, you're going to be able to store it into. You're going to be able to store more of your index in memory. Is basically all it boils down to, before you have issues.
Yeah.
One more thing on the article that will be in the show notes, I did learn a crap ton about UUIDs to begin with. That was a fascinating read, and then a ton about MySQL indexes, at least INNODB indexes.
This was all from this Percona article?
Yep.
Those guys are so dynamite, man. I swear to God, they're my favorite database people out there.
Mm-hmm.
Percona.
For sure. Yes.
Okay, so we have somebody, I assume, randomly watching us by the way they stated their question. I don't know if you guys...
Question we've addressed in the past.
They asked, why does PHP have such a bad rep? Honestly, if you're listening to this show, we're typically, like, the people listening are pretty deep into PHP. We're not a very beginner-friendly show. So, but I don't know. Do you guys want to tackle this one?
Well, I'll take up the first stab at it.
I can ramble about it.
Yeah, because of the early days of PHP where it was horrible. And it's matured a shit ton in the past 15, 20 years, especially the past, what, 10, 7 to 10 since PHP 7.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I
early days.
A lot of the bad reputation back in the day was well deserved. Uh, I won't debate that. Honestly, though, the languages that were available at the time weren't much better. Some had a leg up in one spot over PHP than another. But to John's point, anybody who says that today, anybody who quotes any of these bad metrics today, they probably haven't touched PHP in recent years because no, it's not a completely different language. It's a much more structured language now.
They're also looking, it's very beginner friendly as a language. And if you're following any sort of beginner tutorials, they teach you the worst practices. I mean, they teach you.
Let's be fair,
Right.
John. It's not just the beginner tutorials. You and I helped that college course
Yeah.
years ago, and the methods they were teaching in that college course, we were like, no, don't do this. This is a long established bad practice. Don't do it this way.
Right. Yeah. So even taking classes in school, they're teaching bad practices. They teach you how to get up and running really quickly and how to do the very basic of programming. But for the most part, it's really bad practices. It's hitting the database directly with very bad queries. SQL injection requests.
You guys are missing the reputation part of it all. So this all goes back to an article called PHP: A Fractal of Bad Design.
Yes, I do recall this.
This was an article written by oh boy, it was on Fuzzy Notepad. It's I don't even remember the author at this point. Someone was highly respected.
Wasn't it? No, I don't want to say names. I don't want to accuse people. I think I know who it was, though.
So this was written in 2012. Basically in the early era of PHP 5. And it pointed out a lot of bad issues that existed in PHP. A lot of that stuff being registered globals, direct database access, not having proper abstraction for database variables, poor naming schema for internal functions, inconsistencies with all sorts of stuff in the language, and it had a lot of incredibly valid points. The issue is that this article basically created the PHP is stupid and people who are using it are stupid thing, and it doesn't acknowledge that everything that it says has been addressed at this point.
I was going to say, it also almost created the roadmap for the internals team to say, okay, we need to fix this stuff.
Right.
And they've just started knocking these things out left and right. I do want to expand a little bit more on a point that John made, is the approachability of PHP. PHP is very easy to get up and running, very easy to write code in. You don't need to have a data science degree. PHP is installed on just about every system out there. There's nothing special really to get it up and running. It's not very difficult to get PHP itself running. Like with Rails, it can be tricky. Python, as I mentioned earlier, I'm using a virtual environment. That doesn't always just work out of the box. PHP was pretty damn good at working out of the box. As a result, a lot of people who weren't good, who were very immature with their coding, wrote a lot of code. And a lot of people started using that code. And it just created this era of PHP developers in general are bad developers because they're not disciplined developers. They're not people who actually had to learn development patterns and development things. They just started writing things in a notepad and got web pages to do what they wanted it to do.
And people who just did WordPress would call themselves PHP developers as well.
I was gonna say, even internally within the PHP community, we have fractions that get criticized within PHP.
Yeah,
WordPress being one of them.
Yeah, we don't need outsiders to shit on us. We do it fine ourselves.
So is this where the double claw hammer came from?
That was
Yes.
Phil, right?
So that was his response. Was screw
Yeah.
you? I want a double claw hammer.
So yeah, it's not all undeserved, but it is all ancient history at this point, and it's a new world. I mean, what it is today was not what it was yesterday. Even within the lifespan of what I've developed and John Thomas, it's really come a long ways.
Yeah, and the follow-up question from YouTube, I'm sorry, Periscope, is what is the main benefit of learning PHP and not JS or Python? And the reality is no benefit either way.
No benefit. Whatever works for you. You know what? You get coding, you see what fits. All three of us know other languages. We just make a living in PHP because it's what fits for us best.
And do you want to build a website, or do you want to process large data sets in a CSV file? If you're going to do math stuff, then MATLAB is your thing. Or if you're going to do data management, Python is good with data. If you're going to do
statistics, you're going to use R. You know,
if you're going to do socket-based communication, then Node.js is your way to go.
Just enjoy it. Just enjoy it, and want to learn more of it, whatever platform it is. People are going to
try to learn it all at once.
Yeah, people aren't going to come at you and go, "Oh, the marketing. People are looking to hire this sort of developer, and people are looking to hire these sort of developers, and you make more money as this sort of developer." You know what? That if you're learning a coding language, none of that matters. You have so far to go to get to that level where you can just walk into place and get a job as a developer. You find the language that you enjoy doing, and then see where that takes you.
Yeah, don't worry about electrical engineering or mechanical engineering. You need to pass algebra, dude.
And if you're going to learn PHP, you're ultimately going to learn some JavaScript at some point.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you
it's
learn
really
any
meant
language
for the web.
Any language, you're going to learn JavaScript. I will say, if you are interested in PHP, there's a fantastic post out there called PHP the Right Way. Start there. Read that article. It's a little older now. I should probably go back through and read it.
I have,
because
it's dated.
It is dated. It hasn't filled up.
Dated.
Damn it.
That was one of the typos in this month's PHP Architect magazine that I had written down to talk about in the show. Not necessarily about the typo, but there was a reference to PHP the Right Way in an article, and there's supposed to be a superscript TM for trademark, but it was just the right way TM. It's just all ran
better
together.
than a square with a question mark inside it.
Maybe we need to go through and do a revision of it. I just finished a Pragmatic Programmer, and that was a 20-year-old book that this was the 20th anniversary of it. And the authors basically rewrote, they said like 80% of the book because so much of it didn't apply anymore. It was an interesting read. I was an audiobook, to be frank with you. I listened to it, but it was an interesting thing to listen to again and catch up on. I can see how, had I read the book 20 years ago, how fantastically impactful it would have been. Now, today, like a lot of the points that they talked about, I'm like, yeah, everybody talks about that in every conference you go to. That's not really that earth-shattering, but I I do know like a lot of those subjects weren't that big of a discussion point back in the day.
Well, I
Hey
also want to
Ben,
say
long time no
thank
see,
you so much for
Chris.
the question.
Yeah,
It's kind of
thanks.
fun taking live questions.
Right? It's
Yeah,
weird.
we should do it more often.
I think people are listening. Holy crap, people are watching.
it's
Oh no!
it's our high video quality production.
There you go. That's what's bringing people in, huh?
I feel like
So
we're running long though. Sorry, John.
that's fun. I'm sure we'll be wrapping up soon. We can't talk that much longer, can
As
we?
somebody in control of wrapping it up, usually the one starting it, I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll be there soon.
Uh, uh, I had a nice open source PR accepted this week
I
or last
saw
week.
that. I was gonna warn people at the beginning of the podcast, but I forgot. If you're running Carbon, you're now running official John Congdon code.
Sort of. It's in the production branch. I don't think it's been released yet.
It's not real code either. It's just a test. Isn't it just a test?
It's meant for your tests. So
Yeah.
No, but it's real code that applies to tests.
right. So Tim Lytle made a comment in a Slack channel saying, Carbon should have this. And I'm like, okay, let me go write that real quick. And all it is have a ton of tests that use Carbon, and you use Carbon, call it the static call to set time or set time now. And basically you're setting a time that Carbon will give back to your code anywhere it's at so that you can test your code with a known time. It's very, very useful. The problem
Can you explain a use case for that? Just to help me out?
So I have a lot of queries that are based on time. And I want to make sure that there is a known time in there that it got back from Carbon. So in my PHP unit test, I will say Carbon set time now or whatever that function is, and give it a time string or a date like 2020-09-24 at 10 a.m. And then I can run my test, and then the code that says Carbon now or time equals new Carbon, it's going to get that date, not the current time. So it is a feature of Carbon already. The problem is your code has to unset that, otherwise you could screw up future tests.
Gotcha.
So you do a Carbon set time now to some fake date, run all your tests, and then Carbon set time now with no parameter or null, and it undoes it basically. So Tim said, boy, it'd be nice to have a test with now, or damn it, I can't even remember what it's called now. Basically, you send it a closure, and then
test now.
Yeah, you send it a closure, it sets the fake time, runs your code, and then unsets it for you. It's a really stupid addition to the code, but the funny thing is when I started writing it, I noticed Carbon already had a very similar function, but only for their tests. It wasn't part of the code base itself.
Oh, interesting.
So they were already doing it. It just wasn't accessible.
Oh, interesting. Can I give you one criticism though, or one question, I guess?
Sure.
First thing, fantastic. So happy you did this. I love it when we get an opportunity to contribute to open source projects. It's so rare. Why didn't you wait another week?
Yeah,
you could have been. It could have been your first
today.
Because it could have been your first submission into Hacktoberfest.
Hacktoberfest. That's right. Hacktoberfest is live today.
Because you're assuming I'm going to have what 4 more PRs open in the next month?
4 total is all you need.
You only need 4 more now. Now you need 5. You would have had 1.
You are assuming I'm going to submit any more over the next month.
You might.
As a voice for the open source community, I expect better of you.
Well, you expect wrong. So it is set test now, and my new addition is with test now.
With test now. Yeah.
You send it a bogus date you want to use in your test, a callback to run your test, and you're done. Thank you, Tim, for the suggestion.
And it was a lengthy and civil discussion on GitHub about your PR.
Was.
I was surprised to see civility.
Yeah, they did a good job of great suggestions, feedback. When I first read it, I thought they were going to say, nope, don't want it.
Yeah, your help's not accepted.
Yeah. But through a little back and forth, I got to improve the code that was written and understand more of how Carbon works as well through this. And that was it. I think they were a little bit wrong in one of the changes I made. I'm only setting the fake on whatever instance you call it on. So if you call Carbon with test now, it's only going to set the fake on Carbon. So if your actual code uses Carbon immutable, it's not going to work. So I think they were wrong in having me change that. So I may submit another PR to say, hey, I really think we need both Carbon and Carbon immutable. So I can send the closure in on Carbon, but all my code may use either Carbon and or Carbon immutable. And I want it to work as is.
Ben, just go ahead and answer your question. You asked about the lockdown and working from home and all. It really hasn't impacted any of us. We were all remote developers anyways, so it's even John and I, our entire company is remote. It has impacted some of our clients who have gone remote and have reached out to us for some suggestions, but all three of us have always been remote. This has not changed if one bit at all for any of us.
I think it's going to have a huge impact on society, especially people that have been able to work from home now because of this, and companies realizing the benefits of that.
Back.
Well, and I think companies that were forced
people with kids are.
Yeah, the companies that were forced to allow remote work, who are afraid to make that jump, have maybe have seen the benefits of it and have worked through some of the challenges of it and have come up with good work patterns. This is not for everybody. It just isn't. And there are going to be situations where this doesn't work, but a lot more people could be working remote. And it's not just a coding thing. My wife works remote and nothing she does is coding. It's all medical stuff.
And she's been remote for years. It's not because of COVID.
Right. Exactly. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see where it goes. I think it has its place. I think its place has been a much larger chunk than it has been utilized. One of our clients is a perfect example. There was no reason why their staff couldn't have been remote, and we'd had that conversation a couple times with them. It's just kind of the old way of doing things, and now that they've been forced into it, I'd be very surprised to see them go back to the traditional work that they have today. And it wouldn't even surprise me to see that they reduce their physical office space that they're paying for, which they had just expanded before COVID.
Yeah, and one of the things I think is going to be important to see change is how this impacts mental health, because I know a lot of people are getting cabin fever pretty severely now. And
oh God, me for sure.
Yeah, and there's just not much you can do about it at this point. But online therapy is a big thing right now. Online medical, prescription stuff, doctors. We're going to see a sort of overall societal shift in how this stuff gets handled and how retail space ends up being used, because I can tell you the lot of empty stores in my city.
Mm-hmm.
San Diego probably not so much, but yeah, Colorado Springs, we already had too much real estate.
More so, San Diego, we're more locked down. But yeah. Anyways, I think that's a good point, good spot to wrap things up. We appreciate the questions.
Live
We always like
live
to
questions. Yeah.
again, if you're listening to the audio podcast, another reason to tune in to our live. After this, we're going to chat for a little while. You guys won't hear any of that. You hear the music in the background? That's because we're working our way out. This show's over. We're done. That's episode 207 in the books. We want to thank our Patreons as always. Appreciate it. Hope you like your swag. Buttery, I'm really excited. You let us know when you get yours, man. I want to see you get your, you OG bastard, you. Thank you for your support. You don't have to support us, by the way, to listen to the show, as oddly as that might sound. We do appreciate it. That's it. 207. I'm Eric.
I'm John.
I'm Tom. Keep it
Keep it
ugly.
ugly.
That was very drawn out, Thomas.
That was a very long
Ugly.
show, man.
I'm stopping local.
Ben.
Yeah.
Stopping local.
Great hanging out with you.
I need a keep it ugly closeout banner. I've got that open.
Yeah, we should come up with something. Maybe I'll reach out to my artist friend and see if he can do us a little cartoon or something. I don't know. That's probably a lot more work than I think it would be, but
I can whip together a new scene.
yeah. It'd be fun to have a little comic strip go. That's what I want to see, a little cartoon. Maybe all of us leaving, flipping everybody off and walking away. Oh man, that was a good show. That was fun. Despite my Skype problems, I don't know what I'm going to do about that. Very unhappy.
You got to get real Skype working on your.
I did. That was the thing. So after the show last week, I got all these updates. So the other thing about Linux, and this is nothing new, every fucking morning there's like 20 patches.
Yeah, you can change the frequency
install.
that it checks that.
Yeah. Well, right now I'm trying to get as much as I can because, I'm figuring, new system. I want to make sure everything's current. They're starting to slow down now. But one of the patches was to Skype. And all of a sudden my audio, my video, everything worked in the Skype application. I'm like, this is fucking awesome. So I was so excited to use it today. And when it didn't work, I'm like, fuck, let me go back over to the browser version. And I went over the browser version, exact same problem. It didn't work in either place this week. So I don't know. I have to mess with it. And I'm worried because, like I said, I had to reinstall my audio stack. And I know I did it before the last show, but I don't remember if I had rebooted at that point. So I'm worried I had installed it like in the morning, hadn't rebooted, and everything seemed to be working. And then when I rebooted, everything stopped. Yeah, this piece stopped working. I don't know yet. I have to see. That was fun, man. Look at you trying to do this live.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. You know about Rocket League?
Oh, it's free now, right? On Switch?
Yeah.
It's free. It's free everywhere. Yeah,
Where,
on
is it on Steam?
the Epic Games client.
Oh, so it's not on Steam?
Yeah, not the biggest fan of that, but
No.
Yeah.
Well, it is on.
Probably get
It
a
is
bunch
on
of crap
Steam.
players in there now, right?
I wonder if is it free on Steam too, or just on the Epic client?
just
That's a
on
good
the Epic
question.
client, I think.
They don't have a Linux
Have you-
version anyway.
Have you guys seen Among Us? Among Us yet? Have you seen people playing that?
No.
Yeah.
I kind of want to play that. It's this murder mystery sort of video game. So you're all like, there's like 9 players or 8 players, and you're like on the space station, and there's 2 imposters that go around murdering the other players, and then like if they murder somebody and somebody finds the body, they can say, "Hey, I found a body." Everybody goes into this lobby and they have this chat. They try to figure out who the imposters are and vote them off the space station. And it's just like a fun little game. It's not very skillful or complex or anything. It's like a party game almost. I haven't played it. I don't even know where you get it at. I don't
It's
even
on
know where
Steam.
Oh, is it on Steam?
Yeah.
I got Steam on this.
I've been playing Fall
I need to
Guys.
ta-
I've been going crazy.
I need to talk to you about the Steam. I might reach out to you this next week, Thomas, on Steam because I installed it and I opened it and I see all these games for Windows and Mac, but I don't see anything for Linux. And I thought there was like some sort of crossover with
Yeah,
the
you
Pop.
run the Windows games.
Oh, really? You just anything that says Windows on it, you run the Windows version?
Almost anything.
Oh, I may have to try that.
Yeah, I think Pop OS has functioning Steam game list.
Oh, I can look it up. You don't have to look it up right now. I am liking my Pop. I still have this weird thing with all the JetBrains products, where the problem I talked about last week on the show, where I have that other mount point that's a different drive. So the Python stuff I had on this other mount point, and I was trying to mount. Oh, actually, that was the weird thing about it. PyCharm recognized the mount point. It allowed me to say this is where my project is and use it. PHP Storm still doesn't allow me to do it. It doesn't see that other mount point. It won't let me navigate to it. In DataGrip, so I said I use SQLite in the Python script, and I wanted to look at the data in it and make sure I was pulling in the data correctly. So I'm like, oh, let me try DataGrip. And again, DataGrip wouldn't see the damn drive. It wouldn't see this other partition. So that's why I went to that other tool that
is so weird.
It's the craziest thing. I don't know why it's doing that.
What's your FS tab say for that drive?
I don't know, man. I'd have to look it up. I have to see. I have some sort of time machine set up on this that is writing to a drive that I think it's writing to that other drive, but I don't know how, and I don't know how to stop it. Like I don't want it to use up that other drive doing time machine shit on my first drive. So I don't know. I'm still tweaking things. All right, I'm gonna let you guys go. You guys gonna go play some Rocket League, or?
I'm guessing no. John is knee deep in calendars.
Oh no, I'm done with calendars, and I'll be playing. I don't know if you are.
I'll have to check because Life is still up watching Autism and Love.
I think we need to. I think we need to get a couple listeners and do Among Us. All of us.
Oh, jeez.
Just start killing each other.
Get them on Rocket League.
All right. Well,
thanks
for hanging. Thanks for tolerating my frantic switch over to the Mac for the Skype session.
That was a good episode.
Sure. Oh, before I forget, Thomas.
Yes.
I keep forgetting. I meant to say it 3 times during the show. You've got to go back and listen to YouTube. There's something wrong with your setup. Your YouTube feed is way, way low. It's not. Oh, I gotta stop. Zencaster.
Did you check it? Did you check the whole feed? Because I upped it later on in the feed.
I don't know if I don't know. I did check multiple spots. I don't know how far it went. So I'll listen to this one again and see if it's any better. But yeah, okay. So you know about it. Maybe you've already fixed it.
I heard about it. I didn't. I thought I had it fixed halfway through that episode.
You might have. I don't know. All right, guys.
Well, John, I'll let you know.
Okay. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for
hanging
listening.
out.
All right. Good night.
Good night.